Hey, we're live. Happy Wine Wednesday.
Happy Wine Wednesday. See you in a couple minutes with Rob Hammersley from Black Market Wine Company.
Yeah, and right before that, we're going to blind taste Carl on 3 wines that he has no idea what they are. So
Yeah.
hey, so happy Wine Wednesday.
Woohoo! Happy Wine Wednesday. Canadian wine lovers, Carl's Wine Club members, everyone across the country. Welcome, welcome. It's 5 o'clock. It's time to taste some wine. It's time to chat wine. It's the Black Market Wine Company week here at Carl's Wine Club. Mira Boucher, welcome, welcome.
Welcome, Carl Boucher.
There you go. Just trying to get that straightened up. And we are, we're up and running. So we have a fun show tonight. Mira's going to have to leave early, but that's fine because we have replaced our only one, our only Mira Boucher, Rob Hammersley, our friend of Black Market Wine Company. Sorry, I don't know what's going on here. In October, it's fruit fly season. It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. There's like a cloud of fruit flies right now.
Yeah,
anyway.
Inside everywhere.
Yeah. Anyway, so Rob's going to join me for an interview.
Although the fermentation this year is limited because there's not a lot of BC grapes, maybe it has something to do with harvest. I don't know. A lot of grape fat sitting around attracting the fruit flies. But yes, we are going to blind taste you, Carl Boucher, rapid fire on 3 wines. Then I'm going to head out because we're going to do some serious adulting tonight. We have a kid who's about to start university or college. He's graduating this year from high school. So I have to go to like a college info night of some sort.
How much does it hit you? I mean, is it like a smack in the face? Is it like a realization that, holy shit, what have we done in the last 15 years? Or,
it's a pretty crazy thing to have.
Isn't it? So, so I'm going to stay on while Mira's going to do that serious stuff.
After we blind taste this guy, we are going to talk all about the Black Market wines because it's a stunning beauty this week. We have, 10 wines and only 5. 5 of them are not available anywhere else right now.
I know. This is really cool. That is the coolest part of that feature. That's absolutely the coolest part of that is we've planned that in May. And from there, they put some wine aside for us. They obviously, like they do every year, they sell out of everything. But now, months and months later, we're here rocking and having wines that have been sold out for months. So it is really, really cool. So we're going to talk about the whole lineup, some rare wines. Every wines from Black Market Wine Company are rare. Like plain and simple. Like with the amount they're making every year, if you're not a local or if you're not a wine club member, there's pretty much no other options to get your hands on these absolutely world-class wines. So anyway, we're going to talk about that. Rob's is going to join me in 7-minute time. Before that, we're going to talk blind tasting. We do that every week. And if you're going to join us late today, you'll have to go back at the beginning of the show. So I'm wearing my Black Market gear. I'm wearing my Black Market gear here. So hopefully it's a little bit of a lucky outfit for me so I can perform well, finding what Mira has in front of me. So she's going red today. She's going red, all red. So I'm going to have to get in there.
Awesome. So there's 3 wines in front of you, Carl Boucher. They're all reds. And let's remember, the point of this is not necessarily to like test Carl. This is just to get your impressions of a wine. Tell us what you're smelling, what you're tasting, what you think of it. If a score pops into mind, if a price point comes into mind, then great, tell us. And then I'll reveal what it actually is. What do you get on that first, the first one? Number one.
First one is fairly light. I mean, just by the color, this is a really light wine. Usually, from that color, you get something like a Pinot Noir or a field blend of Pinot Noir and Gamay or something like that. But Gamay usually gives you more skin extraction than that. So it's pretty muted on the nose. I don't get a ton, so I don't have a good impression of what a little bit of floral notes that I get at the very beginning, but not too much.
Okay.
Unless this is just me and my condition that I can't smell a ton. But what can you get some stuff on the nose, or
I
is
don't
it
get a ton on the nose either?
Okay, perfect. Because
But
I get on the other.
I get floral, yes.
Yeah, a little hint of floral, a little bit of red fruits, but not a ton. So let's get to the palate right away. It might give me a little bit more of an indication here, but very light on the color. I don't know if you guys can see that on the screen.
It is, yeah.
Ooh. It's surprising on the palate. Nice texture.
On the palate, right? Yeah.
Nice texture. Nice raspberry, strawberry on the palate. Ripe fruit. There's nothing green in there. It's ripe. Little sweet edges. A little bit of a little hint of vanilla. A little black cracked pepper at the end of that wine too. This is very interesting. So now I'm guessing that might be a blend of Pinot Noir, maybe a little bit of Cab Franc. I wouldn't be surprised if there's any Cab Franc in there. There's some crunchy fruit in the mid palate, but very surprising because you get a really light color, but gives me much more on the palate. So let me think here. Okay. I'm gonna say I'm having here a $30 wine, probably including tax, and I'm super happy and super pleased with that. And I would say it's crisp and crunchy. This is Ontario.
Okay, let's move on. I like what you said when you were describing the wine, that it's surprising. Okay, are you ready for the reveal on this one?
No, wait a minute. I said 91 points because I really, really enjoyed that.
Okay. I totally agree with you. It's surprising on the palate, considering how light it looks and everything, and a little muted on the nose. Guess what it is?
I don't know.
It is from not Ontario. It is from the new, newly rebranded Domaine Artema. So at this site, at this winery site, it used to be Desert Hills.
Yeah.
And now they are they just released, I guess, their first vintage as a Gamay house.
Okay.
It is surprise Gamay. So yeah, that's interesting. And you talked about the pepper. Yeah, good guess, Daryl. And they're on the Black Sage bench, so that kind of makes sense with the pepper.
Yeah, no, totally. Wow, the color is it's really confusing. Is $30 my price point?
No. Double. It's 54 plus tax, so it's about double what you
Whoa. Yeah. I might have an issue with that, but anyway, okay. But hey, I mean, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, it's a well-made wine, hey?
54 plus tax. I'm not sure. I'm having a party here. It's absolutely fantastic. Oh, yeah. Okay. Domaine Artema.
Let's see. Hey, Mike's here. Daryl's here. Vicky, nice to see you guys. And I think we have, oh, I forgot to turn on Instagram. Hello, Instagram. Nice to see you guys on Instagram too. Yeah, you're right, Mike. That is one expensive Canadian Gamay. It's true. I mean, we were just at Thomas Batchelder's, and I would have to say at 93, 94 points, some of those are some of the best in Canada. And including tax, they come to what? No more than 40, I think, for those ones, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, like I'm not going at that price. For that price, it's a no for me. But
it's nice to see Jen. Jen was here at the Thomas Batchelder's too. When will SS Red arrive? Secret Society Red? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, he's asking Vicky. Okay.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know. This is a side conversation. Okay. So hey, it's Rob Yoneda.
There you go.
Okay. All right. Your next one.
Okay, my next one, obviously much more.
You've got like 5 minutes, and then we're gonna bring Rob on. He's already in the green room. So
okay, perfect. So so now much bolder, much more purple red on the collar. I got some cedar on the nose. I got a little bit of chocolate, but it's more on black cherry, a little bit of red currant, a little bit of slate, like wet rock also on the nose. Okay. Oh, I like that. Let's stay in the same my same guess. Around a $30 wine, with the color, I would say Cap Franc Merlot blend from Ontario. Very, very well made. Maybe not 2020 vintage, big and bold, but maybe more like 22, new, crisp and fresh. But I really like that. I'm sticking with my first score here. Okay, this is 91 point. Really delivering. I like the legs. There's some nice concentration. It's lively. Nice little tannin. But yeah, I greatly appreciate that wine. That's what I'm saying.
Awesome. Well, you're getting. So what blend did you guess?
I said Cap Franc Merlot.
Yeah, those are two, and there's one more.
Okay, huh? I said $30. I say 91 points. I said this is really freaking good. If it's $30 including tax, I want to drink that. I want to have a sip of that every night.
Okay, so this is a very special wine. I think it's only available in restaurants and maybe the LCBO. And
did you do that? Really?
I did.
You did.
Just arrived today. Might be in a little bottle shock, but you are correct. $28.95 including tax, I believe. Okay, but here's what's interesting about it. It is Cab Franc, Cab Sauv, and Merlot with a splash of Sauvignon Blanc, Viognier, Semillon, Syrah, and Sangiovese. Have you ever heard of something like that?
This is so cool.
That's wild, right?
This is so cool. So that's the Stratus. That's the Stratus Restaurant Field Blend.
Yeah, so they put this in restaurants as their business card. It's probably the least expensive red at this quality you can get from Stratus.
This is fucking good. This is so cool.
And it has all these whites.
I know. This is so good. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, pretty cool. Okay, your last one.
Bigger, bolder.
Palette warmed up, getting you guys all warmed up. Yeah, Mike, that's a mega blend. You're correct on that. Mike, this next one, you might know about this one a little more. Yeah, and it's such an enjoyable blend, that Stratus. And I've never actually had a red wine with Sauv Blanc in it.
I think you're trying with the third one. I think you're trying to fool me with the wine that I tasted all week.
No.
No?
No, but varietal wise, you're on the right track, probably. Oh, that's a beautiful nose, isn't it?
Yeah, it's big and bold. It's more BC style.
Tell us what you like smell and taste, though.
So let's start with the nose. I smell blackberry, black currant. I smell a little bit of graphite. I smell a hint of floral. I taste cassis. I taste. It's rich. It's bold. It's chocolatey. It's really dark chocolate.
Yeah, that chocolate is so present. I love it.
Isn't it? Isn't it? There's good tannin. So it's not, I don't know if it's a brand new release of a wine, but there's a feisty tannin, but there's a little bit of more of a 3-year-old age here. So I'm not. Huh?
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
if you had to guess a varietal, what would you say? Because it is single varietal.
It is single varietal. So I say Merlot.
All right. Are you ready for the reveal?
Yeah.
I said Mike might know more about this one because he introduced us to this winery. It's right near where he lives in Lake Erie North Shore.
Mouchadre.
In Ontario.
And there's the Cap Sauv, eh? I should have kept Cap Sauv. Yeah, the pencil lead, the graphite is right there.
Yeah, that's what you always talk about with Cap Sauv is that graphite.
Yeah. But the color was not as dark as the Cap Sauv. That's why I went to Merlot, because the color was more in the middle between the Franc and the Sauv. It's not that deep. Like if I have the black market Cap Sauv compared to that, like it's completely different.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it won gold at Wine Align. It won gold at the All Canadians. 145 cases made. Guess how much this one is, including tax?
$35.
Yep, $32.95.
Yeah. This is fantastic wine. This is a fantastic wine.
It's a unique Sauv, right, Mike? Yeah, it's not something like you might find a more like textbook Cap Sauv, and then Carl will be like, "Well, that's Cap Sauv." But like you said, it's like.
I got some characteristic, right? I got the blackberry, I got the pencil lead, the chocolate, like most of it was in there. But yeah.
There you go. There you go. Well, you did it. I'm so proud of you. Oh, and look, Michelle Shuchuk, who is the co-founder of Black Market Wine Company, is sneaking on for a bit before she heads to Sydney tonight, traveling. So that's so nice to see you, Michelle. Should we bring Rob on?
Let's bring it on. Let's bring him. Let's bring him. That's too much fun.
From Black Market Wine Company. Rob, so good to see you.
Hello, everyone.
How's it going?
Good. It's teeing up to be a really, really busy week.
Yeah. We'll take
the time to be honest.
Yeah, we'll take our listener through a little bit of your schedule lately. How like you never know what's going to happen and where you're going to be. So we're going to take our people here with you in your schedule in a few minutes. But hey, good evening. It's great to see you. Did you like the blind tasting part?
Yes.
Man, that I'm bad at it, eh?
If I was listening, Edre, you should have stuck with Cab Sauv. As soon as you said graphite.
I know, hey? I know. Jeez. The color threw me off, Rob. The color threw me off. It was just not dark enough. That's where, if it's not Cap Sauv, maybe Merlot, but nah.
Well, it's great to see you, Rob. I'm heading out. We'll see you guys. Have fun.
Are you leaving now? Do you have one or two questions for Rob before you go?
Well, I want to hear all about what you're going to talk about because I don't even know. Last I heard from Rob, he was sourcing Chenin Blanc from Washington State. So I want to know all about that because that's going to be amazing. And we want to know all about these these wines that are available this week, because we got to taste all of them, Carl and I, and they're amazing. So thanks for saving some of the sold out ones. Dylan saying, looking forward to this, enjoying my unsanctioned Cab Sauv for the show. So we got all our Cab Sauvs out. There we go.
There you go. Well, Mira, we'll let you go and do your super
Cheers,
mom
guys.
things with the college stuff.
All
And
right. See you soon.
Rob and I are going to talk about non-adult stuff. So, hey, do you like the outfit? Come on, I went full on.
You're wearing more swag than I am. I'm not wearing anything right now.
I know, eh? So I'm full collar, full on. I know you're busy, but thanks for taking the time to spend time with us tonight. It's really cool. I know there's a lot going on at the winery. There's a lot going on in BC. So how about we start before we talk about the lineup? Are you okay? Are you willing to talk to our people about the state of what's happening here right now? And what were you up to the last 3 months in terms of prepping for what's happening today in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I'll try not to rehash too much of what you've been talking about, I'm sure, every week for the last while, but we have no grapes at any of our vineyards this year. That's our estate vineyard and the 2 other vineyards that we lease. So there is no fruit for us to harvest. The real kicker of that is we still had to farm all those properties. Just because there's no fruit doesn't mean that there's nothing left to do. There's almost as much, if not more, work to do when there isn't fruit, because in the case of our vineyards, we're trying to retrain trunks. So
Does
that's
it feel like going to work with no paycheck sometimes? like almost, or your boss would say, yeah, I'll pay you next year.
yeah.
Right? How shitty is that?
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like. So there's a bit of salt in the wounds on that front, but a lot of the work we're doing this year is really important because we're hoping to have some revitalized vines next year, which will maybe it's 30, 40, 50% of a normal crop. Time will tell, but the work that we're doing now is important for trying to reinvigorate and rejuvenate these vines for next year.
Okay, so now people know we've talked about it at large. So there's no fruits around here. There's a few wineries who will harvested like a bin here, there. A few from Lake Country. I seen a few from the West Bench, in Osoyoos. But basically, let's talk about what in general 5%, a 5% harvest across the Okanagan. It's barely nothing. So yeah, so small producer like you, I mean, you can't rely on your cellar. You can't rely on your inventory to say, okay, the next 2 years, we're just going to move what we have in inventory. You sell out every year. So from there, the decision was, am I shutting my door for the next 18 months? Or I go with the option B, which was some very attractive fruit, some very attractive vineyard from Washington State in the U.S. So,
yeah, that summarizes exactly the decision we were facing. It's kind of sad here right now. Every week we're hearing about another winery that's closing permanently. So there are some significant long-term effects to our industry from not just last year, but 2 years in a row of 5 or 6 different factors that are affecting our industry on the negative side. So, we needed to find a way to keep the lights on, and with no grapes here, that we would have loved to find a solution in Ontario, but my preference was to find a way that I can still be involved in the farming, involved in the wine, involved in a lot of things that geographically are more difficult with Ontario than they are with Washington. I can drive 2 hours from here and be in Vineyard versus a couple hour flight and all that stuff to get to Ontario. So we made the decision to stick close to home. There's a lot more similarities in terms of growing conditions, terroir, that whole package of what happens in the vineyards, I think, is a lot more simple. So we've made the decision to get grapes from Washington, and it's been 2 months of sourcing and meeting growers and building some relationships and talking with winemakers down there and trying to get the feel for how things work. And it's been an absolutely incredible experience. Wish I wasn't having this, but the silver lining is it's been really cool to see how a much larger and much more mature industry is operating. So I think there's some downstream benefits to our industry in terms of relationships and connections
And
we're making.
also, and I maybe also in terms of learning, taking where their industry's at, because they're probably 15, 20 years ahead of us, and going to get some best practices or something that we can improve on. I don't know, is it just me, or like have you been learning a bunch of things, like some new things, or it's just like same old, same old?
I'm not sure I'd say I'm learning new things. I mean, there is a wealth of global knowledge in the Okanagan that over the last 10 or 15 years we've attracted a lot of international winemakers here. But what I'm seeing more is the scale of operations down there are so different from here. A small vineyard in Washington is like 200 acres versus 2 acres here. And their industry is a lot more um, well, it's much more advanced like the rest of the world, where there's a lot of smaller independent wineries that are not connected to vineyards. So you have this mass of professionally farmed vineyards, growers that are farming 1, 2, 3,000 acres of grapevines. Hundreds of full-time staff. So the professionalism that we're seeing down there on the independent grower side is unlike anything I've seen here. And I'm not saying we don't have the growers here. That's not the point I'm trying to make. It's just it's a different environment down there with a whole level of operational scale we can't ever and we won't ever see here in the Okanagan.
In terms of grapes, because okay, we're the extension of the Sonora Desert. I mean, this is kind of a relate. This is kind of the same at the grand scale. It's the kind of the same region. In terms of grapes, you had a pool of grape that you could play in, that you can select. So, what was your philosophy when you get there and you say, okay, am I sticking with my favorite that what I'm doing here? Or am I going something a little bit different because you know what? I just want to have fun. And while I'm in this situation, I'm going to keep my usual for when I come back. What was the approach here?
Kind of that. So I'm my whole philosophy on this is to try and do things that I wouldn't necessarily normally be able to do here. So that might mean working with grapes that are just not grown here, or grapes that might be grown here, but that would be a very different style wine down in the States. So, for example, Cabernet Sauvignon. We make Cab Sauv almost every year here, but it's going to be very different than the Cab Sauv from Horsehaven Hills, and different. A lot of things are going to make sort of differences in the resulting wines. So what I'm not trying to do is to replace my existing black market portfolio. Um, Same bottles, same labels with different juice. That is not my intention at all. It will have probably a slightly different look to the packaging, whether it's a sub brand of black market. We haven't quite figured that out yet. But I'm trying to do things that are going to be a little bit different. For example, for our rosé, we source Sanso, which is kind of the workhorse grape in Provence for the Provençal rosés. There is almost no Sanso grown in the Okanagan. So for me, this is like a great opportunity to try something a little bit different. Expand my experience base and my knowledge base by working with different types of grapes. And I'm really, really excited about that. It's when you're given lemons, you got to make lemonade, and I'm quite liking this glass of lemonade right now.
Hey, and I want to tell our listener right now that there's a bunch of people on. feel free to ask questions, because I know that lots of you guys who are listening right now are either members of Black Market or either like know Rob very well. So feel free to get your question for Rob in the comment box. We'll be more than happy to answer. We don't have a producer tonight. Our producer is on the road doing some adult stuff, so Mira's not with us. It's only the boys here partying without the boss. But please put your question here and we'll try to answer it. Vicky is saying, so exciting, Rob. You're a master, and I'm sure they will all be superb. Yeah, but I mean, so working with Saint-So, you also bringing some Chenin Blanc. And I smelled a few bins of Syrah at the winery as well. And I've heard there's a special project going on for the Syrah, right?
Yeah, so Syrah is a grape I'm familiar with. Syrah since 2014. That was our first vintage making that wine. Uh, we don't have any Syrah up here for the last 2 years because the vineyard that we've been sourcing from damaged two torn out. But I thought, let's get some Syrah from Washington, and then I went and tracked down some Grenache and some Mourvedre. So I'm going to be making.
Carefully, sounds like GSM here.
I don't know how things are going to end up in terms of what gets bottled under what label, but I think it would be incredibly fun to make a GSM blend, and then to also have a small amount of the single varietals of each of those to make some sort of a pack where you can taste the varietals and then the blend in the same box of wine.
Okay, so let me backtrack, okay? Because now, so you produce, let's an average of 2,200 cases a year, Black Market average. Are you bringing much more grapes than you usually produce? Are you way under, or are you similar amount? So should we expect around the same production? That's my question.
So there's a few reasons behind this. One, we didn't get the go-ahead from the government until pretty much the beginning of August. So we had already done a lot of legwork in advance, sort of anticipating that was going to happen. So we kind of had some fruit already identified. We just couldn't lock it up until then.
Yeah.
We're constrained in how much we can produce this year based on our exemption. So basically, you can't produce more than your 4-year average. We have a couple small vintages in the last couple of years from a few reasons, but we're looking at probably about, I think, 22 to 24 tons of grapes this year, which is 12, 13, 1400, depends on how things out. So it'll be slightly smaller. But our intention for these wines is they won't find many store shelves. They might get the odd restaurant listing, but this is all going to be for our direct customers primarily.
Yeah. So speaking about direct, your direct consumer, your wine club, and all that, Daryl is asking about the Chenin Blanc. Got the question is it going to touch oak a little bit, or because I mean, with Chenin, there's so many options. I mean, give me one versatile type of grape where you can go from dessert wine to sparkling to root. You can do so many things with that. What's on the drawing board for the Chenin?
So Chenin is a wine that I love to drink as a consumer, and we're in the middle of preparing some bare land for planting, and Chenin Blanc's been consistently on my radar for one of the varietals to plant there. We haven't quite finalized that decision yet, but I'm not sure I'm going to plant it. That's a separate discussion. But the reason I wanted to plant it is because of that versatility. So my plans I've contracted 1 acre of Chenin, so that I'm going to get about 4-ish tons or so. I'm going to be doing about half the batch in oak, neutral oak, and the other half will be done in tank. And then I'm going to be doing a small amount of ancestral sparkling as well. Pretty excited about doing that. I'll have 3 different styles now. Obviously the special wine. I suspect that the barrel component and the tank component of the Chenin will end up blended into a single bottle, but I'm not married to any particular outcome yet, so we'll see how the next few months take us.
So the NTD, nothing to declare, has a good chance to be Chenin based next time. Does it?
No,
No.
have NTD on the go. So when I went down to Washington to press the to supervise the harvest and do the pressing of the rosé, and we set the press fraction, which is typically what I do for nothing to declare, is in a tank on its own, bubbling away, and probably I'd say about 2 to 2.5 days away from being bottled as Sanso.
There you go. There you go. Lots of information here. That is pretty cool. So now the Syrah's here. So now that's mean you're still waiting for the later, the later ripening varietals. So you're probably waiting for the Grenache or waiting for the Mourvèdre.
Grenache is getting picked tomorrow. Grenache is picked tomorrow. Coming from the Walluk Slope AVA, which is it's about an hour closer to us, but it's in a little, it's a fairly small AVA. I mean, I don't know how many, there's 27 AVAs in Washington State. The Walluk Slope is one of the smaller ones, and it's kind of a kidney bean shaped area that nestles in a sort of a crook in the Columbia River. So it's on a hill from the upper part of the hill down to the sort of crook in the Columbia River, and it's quite a hot site. Things will often ripen there before other areas. Grenache, yes, typically is a later ripener, but it's getting picked tomorrow along with the Mourvèdre. The Chenin Blanc is quite possibly going to be the last one that we pick. It's still hanging on the vines. It's a 50-year-old planting, an organic vineyard, just outside, kind of in between the Walluk Slope and the Royal Slope. So it's a Columbia Valley AVA. So that's still hanging. Today we picked Semillon. So some of you might remember we used to make a Semillon and a Sauvignon Blanc Semillon blend called Collusion. That ended in 2019 when our contract with our grower ended. So when I saw a little bit of Semillon available, also from the Walluk Slope, I jumped all over that. So we're going to be doing Semillon, Sauvignon Blanc, and most likely a Sauvignon blend, quite similar to Collusion.
That's awesome.
Coming later this week, the Semillon got picked this morning. And then we will still have the Chenin Blanc and the Cab Sauv getting picked next week or within the next 10 days is my guess. So the rest of this week, we've got Semillon, Sauvignon Blanc, Grenache, and Mourvèdre to process.
And looking at the early reports about the growing season, the 2021 was a really good growing season. I'm hearing viticulturists, also wine critics, talking very glowingly about like the really highly of the 2020, not 21, I mean 2024 vintage. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's been a really good, especially the last part of the season. So for people that have been to the Okanagan or to Ontario wine region, it looks very different in Washington than either Ontario or most specifically the Okanagan. It's a much bigger area and much more wide open. Their idea of hills and mountains are not like what we see here in the Okanagan. The Walluk Slope maybe only has 150, 200 meters of elevation change from top to bottom. So it's a very mild slope.
It's just like you and me making like you and me making fun at Brian Schmidt with the escarpment.
Yes, yeah. Very, very much. So, with smaller bodies of water, like it's primarily driven by rivers down the Yakima River, Snake River. Those smaller bodies of moving water have a different effect on the climate there than the lakes do in Ontario or here in the Okanagan. So they're kind of different growing conditions. The soil structures are somewhat similar to where we're from, but the climate water. It's very dry there, quite windy. They don't have a lot of the same pressures that we do at the vineyard with less humidity and less moisture in general. Things like mildew are much lesser of a concern. Bunch rots and varietals. And they don't even have a lot of animal pests that we have. Like, because it's so vast and open, there's no trees for birds to starlings to nest in, so they don't have to worry about
netting and all of that.
in some area. In some areas they do, but down where most we're getting is coming from, just those pressures just don't really exist. So it's kind of like you get these fat that are ideal for mechanization.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't have to worry too much about pests and diseases. This year is turning out to be a very good year. We're getting a really good, long, warm fall. So the hang time is good. At a good start to the year. So the grapes are kind of already on track. And then there hasn't been much in terms of the way of like speed bumps to slow things down. So it's been a pretty good season down there.
That's awesome. Dylan Warfel is just commenting here. You say, "Hey Rob, you commented on my post the other day on the syndicate pairing of so well with the steak." For me, Dylan said it's it's like a base loaded Reggie Jackson grand slam home run in the bottom of the ninth inning. I like it. I like it. It's a little baseball analogy here with the beginning of the playoff in baseball. That's pretty cool. I love it, Dylan. You're awesome. I mean, we made a beef stew yesterday from scratch, and I tasted the Capsule, the Merlot, the Syndicate, and all of that. I have to say yes, Dylan. Steak with the Syndicate, slow roast, slow cooked meat with the Merlot. That's my personal choice. And Mira said, no, I want them all. So that's where Mira stand. I said, yeah, I want a glass of each, and I'm taking them all. So good one, Dylan. I like the baseball analogy here.
With our advent calendar last year, we used Julia Child's classic Boeuf Bourguignon recipe, the one it takes like 4 to make. And I think we paired that one with the Merlot, and it was just a stunning match.
I mean, I did the test last night. Yeah, the Capsule was great. There's no doubt about that. But the Merlot, the 2020,
Yeah.
Absolutely pinpoint on all aspect. Pinpoint the fruit aspect, the savory aspect, the tannin, everything was just so. I mean, amazing. So yeah. Okay, let's get back to just to finish the conversation about Washington State, and let's get back to the Okanagan because we have a great conversation to have. If you have to say one thing, one winery in Washington State that you visited while you were there, we really, really, really got your attention, and you say, "Wow, these guys are absolutely amazing." Was there something that one winery that you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, probably two actually. I'll just indulge me for a couple of minutes here. So I went to school down in that part of the world. I did a 2-year viticulture and a 2-year enology program. So I've been down there for 4 years off and on. So I'm quite familiar with the typical Southeast Washington. But one place I never got to before was Walla Walla. So into the town and some of the wineries in town and around there. So one of the trips that we went down a few weeks ago, went to Walla Walla finally, and absolutely fell in love with it. And there was a couple wineries that really stood out for me. One was L'École 41, which is probably a winery that many people would be familiar with because they do see some distribution up in Canada. But it's a really cool setting. It's actually an old schoolhouse, and their tasting room is inside like what was a classroom. Their wines are super delicious and amazing value for the quality of wines that they're producing and the prices. $20 US for a bottle of wine, $30 for a red. Like it's insane. They have some really expensive wines as well, but I think the old QPR hit me on that winery for sure. Especially so Washington wines are in general quite expensive.
Yeah, yeah, we always blame California, especially Napa Valley, for their now excruciating high price. But I mean, when we're looking at the top premium Washington State, I mean, Cool Cedar Creek, where I remember I got a Cool Cedar Creek for $75. It's long gone, long gone. I mean, now we're talking with their good Cab Sauv, it's $250 US for their good bottle of wine.
Yeah, and like many of the sort of the cult Napa wines, where you can only get them by being on an exclusive mailing list, there's wineries in Washington just like that. It's crazy. So then the winery that I would like to give a shout out to, which is really cool, is actually in Oregon. So the Walla Walla AVA spans Washington State into northeastern Oregon. And the Rocks District is an area that some might be familiar with. It's fairly famous in many places in the world, and it's about a 5-minute drive south of the Washington-Oregon state line, and it's very well. Rocks District. It's just rocks. So if you've ever been to the Southern Rhone and places like Gigonza and Rasteau, where there is no soil, it's all sort of hand-sized pebbles. It's identical to that part of southern France. So obviously they're quite focused on the Rhone varietals there. And we visited a winery called Roti Cellars, a bit of a nod to the Côte Rôtie in
the Northern Rhone. Yeah,
is spelled in France. At least it looks exactly the same. But we did a full portfolio tasting of pretty much every wine that they make. And I ended up buying 2 bottles of wines from the Love Rock series, and they're 2 different clones of Syrah grown in the same vineyard. It was really, really cool experience, and the wines are super delicious, pretty expensive, but sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Let's get back to the Okanagan, about what you've done in the last couple of years, because we have 10 wines in our feature this week. Half of them are not available anywhere. Either it's a sold out, either it's a pre-release. I mean, this is an absolutely rocking offer. I am so thrilled. I tasted a few of these wines. Let's start. Let's start with the. Do you have enough time to go through wine by wine, or do you have to be on the ice tonight? Do you have a?
I don't leave for a couple hours still.
Okay, perfect, awesome. So I want to start with the Omerta. Okay, so Omerta Rosé, the 2023 vintage. 23 was a different year as well because of the late 2022 frost. You have to turn around and do some different stuff. So tell me a little bit more about this, and I'll tell you my impression after that.
Yeah, so the vineyard that we get our Cab Sauv from on the Golden Mile Bench in Oliver, it comes to the winter damage at the late end of latter part of 2022. So we had no fruit, no Cab Franc or Cab Sauv from that vineyard at all in the 2023 vintage. So we decided a little bit, a bit more unique for the Okanagan. I've had a lot of Van Glee style wines that I like. There's a couple of them in the Okanagan. They're that really sort of no color, slightly pink version of a Pinot Gris, with usually just from a couple hours of skin contact. But I thought, I like the freshness, I like the flavor profile of Pinot Gris. Let's see what happens if we actually give it a few more hours of skin contact to get some of that color. And we landed at just over 20 hours of maceration time. So we Pinot Gris, which is grown right across the street from our property. It's local. And we demmed it, light crush, and tank, and let it sit there for what ended up being just over 20 hours. So we got a beautiful rich color, which honestly was a bit surprising to me that we were able to get that much color out of Pinot Gris. Although it is a purple grape, a lot of people don't know that, but Pinot Gris is a purple grape. It just doesn't have a lot of the anthocyanin pigments that give it a color like traditional red grapes. So what we were able to get from that is not only color, but there's so much in the skins and in the pulp that in many typical styles of white and rosé winemaking, you potential because you pick the grapes, you squeeze them, and you get the juice away from the skin as possible. But by doing a bit of skin contact, you're able to capture so much more in terms of texture, in terms of flavor, in terms of aroma precursors that that really kind of surprise you in terms of the complexity of this rosé. And if anyone ever accuses me of making a simple light fruity crush, they have definitely not had this wine.
Ain't happening on this one. That's the point I wanted to bring. Not only there's that rich mid palate with a good weight. To me, what's today, it's the back, it's the finish. It's almost the tannin. It's almost like that tannin feeling that you get at the end, who extend the flavor profile of it. It just go on and on and on. And I almost had a feeling like that Pinot Gris Omerta and the orange wine Gewürztraminer kind of connect at some point in the texture profile. But yeah, with the Pinot Gris, to me, that's the back end, the little tannin, and that's what I mentioned. That's the ratio brightness, color, because the acid is bright, the acid is beautiful, but also the skin contact ratio brings something completely new and interesting to it.
Rosé in general, category of wine, rosé has been popular in many parts of the world for forever. It's only recently in the New World that it's become a fashionable wine to drink, but rosés have been made for centuries. And they're probably one of the most versatile categories of wine. And when you make a got the layers and the depth and the complexity and the richness, it's an absolutely perfect four seasons food. Only drink in the summer. It's got weight, it's got body. You could drink this a little bit warmer than a typical would be, and be thoroughly enjoyable.
Absolutely, absolutely, and the level of complexity is really up there, with also the mid palate texture. Awesome, I really like that. I give that 92 points. I freaking love the complexity of that wine. So well done.
Can I say more about the Omerta, and it's maybe a segue into a discussion about the orange wines. So is a wine typically made from white grapes that ferments on the skins. Whereas the skin contact we did in Omerta, there was no fermentation happening. And that, to me, is the delineation between an orange wine as a category and a white wine or a rosé wine that's got some skin contact. The fundamental difference being that there was no fermentation happening with the Omerta as it was soaking up all those colors. Fermentation didn't start until after we had pressed it off. And there are some misconceptions about, people think this is an orange wine because it's made from Pinot Gris. No, it's not. It just happened to have a few hours of maceration time before we started fermenting it.
So that's why, and Karen was asking about the fundamental difference between the orange wine and the vin gris. So basically, that's the fermentation has not started before the press cycle.
Right, and then with the orange wine, made from Gewürztraminer, which is also in light purple skinned grape, we actually fermented the juice while they were still on, all that stuff. So it's an orange wine. Think of it as a typical white wine made in the style of red wine, wine making techniques, versus a rosé is white wine making technique.
Yeah. So and before we get on the orange wine, Vicky is mentioning that, and I think I'm with her with that, taking me back all the way. I think from one of your first Syrah rosé, but this Omerta is most likely the best one yet. The flavors, the complexity of this rosé is unique. Ron, don't walk. I mean, I agree with her, and I mentioned it to Mira when I tasted the lineup, and because I tasted that Omerta during our rosé marathon, but this week I think the richness was even more obvious with a little bit time in the bottle. And I told Mira, and I said it might be the best one it made so far. And I knew we had some really good one back in 19, and there was some great rosés, but this might be the most complex of all. So yeah, well done there.
Thank you.
Okay, so now let's move on to the. I can't tell you how many times I reopen and repump that bottle. Little bit by little bit by a little bit every day. That gives me a little bit more, and it's been over. I always say, and I want to pick your brain on something. So this is the orange wine. It's been over 10 days now that this bottle is open. It was the very first, when you gave it to me, I opened it the same day, and every day I go into that and it just gives me something new. Is it because of that long skin contact and the pre-fermentation together that protects the wine more than any other against the oxidation, or is there anything why this wine doesn't want to fall off the cliff?
Because of how they're made. So they're the way that it's made, it's not made in a reductive style. It's exposed to oxygen. We did punch downs on that bin of Gewürztraminer the same way that we would with Syrah or Cab Sauv. So we're constantly exposing that batch to oxygen at an early stage. So it definitely builds up a bit more. Maybe resistance isn't the right technical term, but it's maybe an easier way to explain it. It's had that early exposure to oxygen, so it's much more of with that later. That wine, when I was making it, so I've been at this for about 10 years now. I think this is my 11th vintage. Um, that wine captured part of me unlike any other wine I've made before, and I don't really know how to put it into words, but it was absolutely seductive. I couldn't wait to get up every morning and go do a punch down on that bin because it just sucked me in. Like I would have jumped in and just soaked in that thing if I could have. Floral notes coming off of that bin were just, they're so intense, and that translates into the wine as well. You're going to get a lot of those notes in the wine itself, but there was just something about how this wine came to be that just kind of captured my heart.
I mean, I don't have a piece of paper. I found a pencil on my desk here, and I just wrote that quote on the desk. Just okay. This wine captured a part of me like any other wine that I've made before. I fucking love that quote. This is awesome. Yeah, I mean, I tasted at least 20, maybe 25 orange wine this year. It's by far my highest rated, and the one who really, really triggered my geek inside of me. And I mentioned it in my note. It's geeky, but not too much. It's not something that you have to scratch your head and you say like, sometimes orange wine, you feel like, do I like it or is it too weird? But the geek inside of me feel excited because it's very different. It's not that. It's not that. It's just purely enjoyable. But there's so many turns and twists that wine takes. It's just freaking fantastic.
Part of that was intentional in terms of how I made it as well. So I'm kind of in the same camp as you with some of the hardcore natty style orange wines. They're too much. There's too much tannin. The acids are not pleasant. There's that musty fizziness to them. I don't enjoy drinking wines like that. So I didn't want to make an orange wine like that. But I still wanted to capture what that technique offers. So we didn't ferment completely dry on the skins. I think I pressed. No, I didn't even press actually. I racked the juice off after about 10 days of fermentation.
And you went with the free run juice?
Free run juice. So this was never pressed. We have a siphon tube that we can put into the tank that it's like a big screen on the outside. sucks all the juice out, and we racked that into neutral barrel, finished fermenting. And it took another better part of 3 or 4 weeks. So we were probably looking at close to 5 to 6 week fermentation from start to finish for this wine, but it never saw the press. So
you're telling me now? No, sorry to interrupt. There's only there's only 300 bottles of that made, so 25 cases. So you tell me that if you had pressed it maybe just a little bit, we could have more.
Been as good of a wine. It would have been up, highly tannic, unpleasant acid, and I was tasting it every day, and I want this orange wine to be. It's enough to capture of people that don't like orange wines. Maybe it doesn't quite go far enough if you're a true natural wine, orange wine kind of geek. Maybe it doesn't quite go far enough there. But there's definitely a freshness to that wine that I think is unique in that category.
And it's one of this very surprising thing because at the fundamental, Gewürztraminer doesn't have high acid, and that for you to go extract the very maximum of acid out of a Gewürz like that is fantastic. And like I wrote in my note, the only problem with that wine is just not enough made. Plain and simple. That's the biggest problem of that wine. And we have the boss at Black Market commenting here. She's commenting on that comment. She said, "Don't worry, everyone. I stopped Rob from jumping in the bin. He was in love with it, definitely. Everyone who walked by, including the ATS driver, Rob will stop them and make them smell the goo." Oh, that's too good. That's too good. I mean, I give it a 92 points. At first time I give 92 points to I think I give 92 plus to a orange wine. Absolutely freaking fantastic. There's only two cases available for the feature. So if you are a wine club members, or if you are not, like you want a few extra bottle, that's the only way to get some. It's this week right here. Get to it fast because we had a few orders today. So yeah. Okay, from the goo, let's go. I want to talk quickly now. Let's get on more on track. I want to talk about the Bacchus. That's the brand new vintage of the 2023 Bacchus. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was a little like a very bright style of Bacchus. This specific release, bright and very crisp and very lively. So tell me a little bit more about the this year, of which becoming almost of a cult wine at Black Market now. So
to me, one of the trouble with a grape like Bacchus is it's maintaining that natural acidity, or being able to pick it at a good level of natural acidity, where you have this amount of developed flavor and aroma and sugar and all that sort of stuff, and they're kind of at opposing. Your sugars are going up as the grapes ripen, but your acids are coming down, and you need to find that sort of that point where enough of the flavor, enough of the sugar to make, and still have enough of that natural acidity to keep it fresh. And 2023 was a pretty cool year because it was our earliest harvest ever. We would normally pick our Bacchus, I'd say typically around the 23rd or 24th of September. And we picked it the first week of September this year. So the acidity is in many cases a function of time and some weather factors as well that will cause it to leave the grapes quicker than other years. But that sort of earlier harvest really helped us capture the freshness of this grape. May not, as I said, it's later pick and harvest, but that's definitely got a nice fresh Christmas to it.
And I mean, yeah, low alcohol, 11.9. So I think it was a little lighter on its feet for this that specific release. I really enjoyed that. Well done. Now, moving, like just connecting with what happened this year, a big portion of your estate vineyard, the Conviction Ridge Vineyard in Caledon, is planted with Bacchus. So, what is the outcome? What's the future of Bacchus at Black Market at the Conviction Ridge Vineyard?
Pretty good. We're self-rooted, so we're able to retrain him up from the root system. But that's a bit of a double-edged sword, because that's why we may not have Merlot anymore. Our Merlot was grafted onto Bacchus rootstock about 7 years after planting, in 1992, I think. And so the Merlot that we've been growing here, which we absolutely love, we much in the way of top growth, get much above the ground. So the suckers that are coming up in that block are likely going to be Bacchus. So there's a good chance we're going to have more Bacchus to start out with.
Okay. And this one is the 2023. So this is the pre-release. I think Rob's going to release that one in the next couple of weeks or so. But yeah,
in June.
In June. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So you're well ahead here with Carl's Wine Club. If you want to have a very good preview of what the 23 has to offer, 91 points, Carl's Wine Club. That wine has never rated under 90 points since I started to taste it. Love it. It's different, but it's also, there's also that beautiful brightness, and the floral aspect of that wine makes it very unique, and like it's really exciting. So pre-release the 2023 here with Carl's Wine Club this week. That's awesome. Briefly, we couldn't feature the Black Market without having the Pinot Blanc, the one that was highlighted at the Pan Canadian Masterclass at Esther Creek this year, the 2022 vintage. I'm excited. This wine is just gaining more texture with time. This wine is just gaining more volume, more expression. This wine is getting really, really good. So, yeah. I mean, I always like to joke is that this wine is our wines a little bit, and it's completely like an inside joke that we have. But we had the privilege to pick the grapes with you guys in 2022 for that vintage. And it was such an amazing experience. It was almost spiritual in a sense of connecting with the vineyard at that level. It was awesome. And now to feature that wine on a national platform with the Pan Canadian and having it this week with us, it's to me, it's just, it means a lot. So thanks for saving a few cases for us just for that. But yeah, that 2022 Pinot Blanc available here this week.
Yeah, we just released the 23 on September 1st. So yeah, it was we had a few cases we needed to hide pretty well in our warehouse.
What make the 22? Because we had that conversation many times. 22 is such a good vintage for white wine. There was such flavors definition in 22. Was it because of the late start, but also the cold spring who kept everything together, but also the very, very long developing later season? So 22 was such a really cool vintage for that.
Yeah, 22 was a great year for flavor development. Slightly extended hang time for many of the grapes, without a corresponding accumulation of sugar, which is kind of the ideal scenario for ripening, which is ironically what we're actually seeing in Washington this year. The grapes are getting great hang time, but they're not moving a lot in terms of their sugar ripeness. And so particularly for white wines where it's that freshness and that flavor that is often hard to get because they are typically earlier harvested grapes. The vintage like 2022 is fantastic for those styles of wines.
Okay, let's go to the reds. The Secret Society 2022 pre-release. This wine hasn't been bottled yet. So it's going to be bottled in a couple of days.
Yeah, it's been bottled, but it hasn't been released yet.
Okay, there you go. So yeah, the 2022 Secret Society. I mentioned in my note, it might be the best Secret Society made so far. And I mean, it comes from you. It comes from that's one of you're the most excited. But after sitting in my living room in my little tasting cubicle here, I came up to say, you know what? I don't think that like this is my favorite Secret Society. Holy moly, it's crunchy, but there's also a lot of length and a lot of complexity. This wine is not the little wine anymore. It's not the little starter wine. This is not what it is anymore.
So yeah, so just for whoever's listening to hear this right now, we had planned to put the 2021 into the offer, and it sold out for quite a few months. So we had a Carl's Wine Club pallet in our warehouse, and I had kept some storage for Carl to do his reviews and tasting notes on a few weeks ago. And so he came by, what, 4 or 5 days ago?
Yeah, 5 days ago.
Well, while you're here, do you want to try? And I couldn't contain myself. I agree. This is probably my favorite vintage of this wine I've ever made. And so I poured a glass for Carl, and I couldn't contain myself, and I saw the smile come across his face. And I'm like, we can do the 20.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, it's the evolution of this wine. Obviously, that we've been making 18, and the wine is always. I think in maybe in some respects, it got a bit of a an unfortunate name relative to the syndicate. You know, the syndicates are big Bordeaux style blend. It's a flagship wine. And the Secret Society has always kind of been in the shadows of that wine, and it shouldn't be. It's just a different style. You know, I don't make different tiers of wine, and honestly, Carl, if I was to do this, I would have a single price for all of my wines, because they're all produced from the same fruit and the same love and care and quality. It's just unfortunate that our market doesn't really work that way on the consumer side. But when it came time to develop the Secret Society Red, it was not about, you know, syndicates better, Secret Society's lower. It's not that at all. It's just about the style. And Secret Society is supposed to be a wine that goes into bottle when I think it's ready to drink, versus some of our other reds, which are, you know, I want that to evolve and to develop some complexity and some nuance over time. But the Secret Society is intended to be just you buy it today and you have it with dinner tonight, and that's where for that wine started out. And you know, 2021 was maybe a little bit of a departure from that concept, because it was such a big hot year. It was hard to make a really approachable wine. We did our best through barrel selection to do that. But now that we're in that fantastic 22 season, I had so many options to play with as I was going through my fleet of barrels. And we were able to pull out just the right ones that still have body. They still have depth and complexity and texture and flavor and aroma. But the assemblage of that blend is just coming together in a way that it's drinkable now, today.
And if I have one word to describe it, it's expressive.
Yeah.
Just expressive. In the fruits expressive, the acid is expressive. Everything in that wine is just like absolutely explode. It's fantastic. I have a couple questions here, but Daryl said the order has just been placed. Thank you, Daryl. I have Carol here with Carol Chamberlain is asking, so just to clarify, the Secret Society, when the Secret Society was bottled, and do we have the chance to purchase it in the club this week? So I don't know exactly when it was bottled, but I know that, yes, it is exclusively available here this week for a certain period of time. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Dylan says that yeah, Michelle had a little sample for them on Sunday, and they said yes, it is a special and it's really good. So yeah, no, I was excited. Oh yeah, and okay, Secret Society, Secret Blend. There's 4 grape varietals, and I just want to hint one thing. There's a very generous amount of Syrah in there, and it shows on the finish. There's that lengthy white pepper finish on that wine that really, really, really led me to Syrah, and we had the conversation after that. But the flavor profile, there's a little meatiness in the mid palate, but the white pepper on the back end absolutely unveil the Syrah grape in the blend.
Here's just an idea, but maybe in a month or so we could do a quick little live and do an actual breakdown of what's in this after your members had a chance to get the wine.
Absolutely, I love that idea. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so that's Secret Society. We also now we have the Bordeaux, the 2 Bordeaux varietals. Well, 2 of the 3. We have the 2021 Cab Sauv and the 2020 Merlot. Now, for people who are not member of your wine club, who have not been following us since the beginning, when you won like the winery of the year, Cars Wine Club in 21, they're a little bit new to your brand. What is the difference between the unsanctioned series and the estate series?
So the estate are grapes that we grow ourselves. So we have Merlot on our property, and when we do a single varietal bottling of the Merlot, it's 100% from this vineyard. So we have an estate series that includes Merlot, the Pinot Blanc, and the Bacchus. We've now taken long-term positions on other vineyards, so that over time, we don't know how that's going to shake out yet, but those are grapes that we grow on our home site. The unsanctioned series is it's more of a collection of unique wines. We don't produce the same wines year in and year out. And that is kind of by definition how a wine fits into the unsanctioned series. We've done, I think, 3 vintages or 4 vintages now of Cabernet Sauvignon as a single varietal. We'll sometimes do Cabernet Franc. We'll do Petit Verdot. So it really depends. There needs to be something really unique or really special about as little as bottled a single barrel before under the unsanctioned series. And now I think we're typically case production ideally for those wines because they do get gobbled up pretty quick. But there's just something either really unique or really cool about it. And that's really the criteria that I've
Okay.
don't see way of retail distribution. It's almost exclusively wine club and tasting room.
Okay, perfect. That's good to know. Now, Daryl's how much for a black market corkscrew is starting a corkscrew collection right now. Is it to go with the hot sauce collection, Daryl's? You know what? I'll hook you up with something, Daryl. Don't worry about that. Rob, make sure that we throw one, and I will we'll add it into the final tally on for Daryl. Daryl, it's on us. Okay, there's 2 wines. Really wanted to touch base about the Merlot because it's a state before your vines 1985. The vines were planted on Conviction Ridge Vineyard. I mean, these are old vines. It gives the wines a very deep, a profound complexity that you cannot find. Sometimes you can buy experience as a person, right? There's something you can buy. It's the same thing for age of vines. When you get to that depth of the profound complexity comes from the age of the vine. So that 2020 vintage shows so many layers and the complexity of that wine. It's a serious wine. I love that Bordeaux-esque style of that Merlot. I love the tannin, lower alcohol, but like very fantastic.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a sleeper. We seem to be on alternating cycles with each vintage. So 18 was similar to 2020, and 19 is much more similar to 21, where the 19 kind of peaked before the 18, and I think the 21 before the 20.
Yeah.
So as this wine spends more time in bottle, it's definitely starting to show its true colors, um, and it's definitely a wine that's got some time in the cellar. You really want it to be patient, lay this thing down for a few years, and really.
Well, unless you make a beef stew. If you make a beef stew, darn it, pull the cork on that bottle. The pairing is just so fucking good. Oh, okay. And
1 year behind on the release of the Merlot relative to all of our other reds. So 20 is our current vintage. We bottled the 2021 last spring, and that is now just getting released to our wine club, but it likely won't. We won't pour that in tasting until next summer. So it's almost typically a full year behind the release schedule of our other reds.
and I have some insider information that tells me that there's not a whole lot of that left. So
There's not. Well, there's not a lot to start with. I mean, we're
yeah,
25.
yeah.
It's very far, but we're down to I think 14 or 15 cases.
Yeah. And now that we're gonna reach a 92 plus score, and we'll let the world know that this is that good. And if you're a cook at home and you like make beef stew, you cannot pass on that. And as much as the 20 Merlot was a little bit Bordeaux-esque to me, the 21 Cab Sauv is very Pacific Northwest. I felt it was much more modern, plush, ripe, ready to drink now, like really for enjoyment right now. You get the Cabernet stuff. It's blue fruit. It's dark fruit. There's that graphite line into that. It's like you can't miss it. Am I right?
Absolutely, and the salinity on that finish, it
Oh
just
yeah, it's crazy. I think, okay, where is that coming from? Because I find that into your Cap Franc before, but this level in that Cap Sauv was one, yeah, very unique.
yeah. So the site that we get that Cab Sauv, and same as with our, end up with a higher pH in those wines than most other reds that we work with. And I'm learning that it's much more similar to the grapes that we're seeing now in Washington, where a pH of 3.8, 3.9 is kind of normal. And saltiness is a highly sought after character in some of the Cab Sauv from Washington. Um, so this site that we've got up on the Golden Mile Bench, or that we had, I should say, it's no longer planted, but that was I'm realizing now quite similar to the style of Cab Sauv from Washington.
Huh, that's good. Let's finish it off with the rock star, the 93 points, 2020, 2021, the syndicate. I mean, I talk about it at large. 21 was such a difficult. I'm not saying it's a bad vintage. It's not what I'm saying, and I've never said that. It's a difficult vintage. There were so many curveballs thrown from the heat dome, and many wildfire, not necessarily close to where your grapes are coming from, but there was a lot going on in the Okanagan in 2021. With the card you were dealt, you did an absolute miracle with the result in the bottle. Darn it, that wine is good. It's clean, it's layered, it's complex. There's definitions, there's bright acid. And for 21, I'm seeing often in 21 high alcohol level. No, you managed to keep it in a good proportion. So 93 points. I really, really enjoy that.
Yeah, thank you. That was definitely a difficult growing season, but a bit of diligence in terms of adapting to the fruit you got, adapting that in terms of how you make the wine. We did some slightly less maceration time, so one of the reasons why we put a little bit more Petit Verdot in
Okay.
is more color, because we didn't do extended skin
Yeah.
contact normally would. So there was a few adaptations I think that happened in the winery to kind of react to what we were given by Mother Nature. And I'm pretty happy with the results in this one. Again, this is a bit of a sleeper too. It's definitely settled down after a few months in bottle. And I think it's a fantastic food wine, and it's got,
Oh yeah.
quite a duration of cellarability to it as well.
Absolutely. And it's always been your philosophy with the syndicate. You make that wine to last at least 10 years. I had a post today because I posted about it, and the lady was asking, I have a 2018, is this wine will last more? And I've said, yeah, there's absolutely no problem there. I mean, all the syndicate that you've made, they're built to age. It's a cellar wine. But the 2020 though now have come together, and it's not, I mean, it's not something that I would say don't pop the cork now. I will go with the 21 before maybe the 20 in terms of ready to drink now.
Yeah, and just throw it in a decanter for an hour or
Yeah.
two, or
Yeah, absolutely.
on those in the tasting room. And we just poured that at Festival of Grape, and we're going from like, you pop a bottle and you pour it 30 seconds later, and that Vino just makes such a difference. So
Oh yeah, yeah, best tool out there, that's for sure. Hey Rob, man, we went for an hour and a half, so I mean, thanks for your patience. Thanks for being so generous of your information. We had a good crowd tuning in. That was awesome. Thanks for talk.
you mentioned nothing to declare, so we do have 12 bottles of that for you guys. The absolute last remaining 12 bottles of that wine.
That's true, but there's less than that because we had some orders today, so I need to monitor this one. I need to monitor it one by one. So I would say there might be 6 bottles left of the nothing to declare. So yeah, I mean, it's probably, when I look at the blend, it's Merlot and Bacchus. So this is from estate fruit, all made from estate fruit.
Yeah, it's a field. They were harvested at the same time and processed together.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, oh, you know what I noticed with that? I think that nothing to declare, it's better a little warmer than too cold. I experienced that when I opened the bottle a couple of 4 days ago, out straight out of the fridge. I pop it up and it was missing something. I left it there. It became not totally room temperature. It was just slightly chill. When I poured the second glass, oh, wow, now the expression and the grassiness, the floral, the Bacchus came out, the complexity, the bubbles were much smoother than when it was colder. So just to my opinion, I suggest slightly not too cold to get the most out of this wine.
Yeah,
There you go. So I mean, that's 10 wines. That's two kids here, like taking advantage that mom and dads are not around, and we partied all night. Thanks, Rob.
glad to chat.
Hey, great to chat. Thank you so much. And yeah, to everyone, it's Black Market Wine Company Week here at Carl's Wine Club. We just spent the last hour and 20 minutes with Rob Hammersley. Rob, have a great rest of your evening. I greatly appreciate your time. Say hi to Michelle, and we'll chat very soon. I'm probably going to swing by and get my nose in the production facility to see where you're at with the new fermentations.
Cool. See you soon.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Have a good one. Yeah, what a cool conversation here. We just went through the whole 10 bottles that we have available this week, and to me, it's how like so rare that these wines are. And if I recap, like the orange wines, there's 25 cases made of that, and we got like 2 cases left that we have just for Carl's Wine Club members. There is so many different things that with just tiny little 5 of the 10 wines are only available here. Like the Bacchus, available exclusively here and won't be released until next June. So really, really cool to have that privilege. Black Market Wine Company, which is our 2021 Carl's Wine Club Members' Choice Award BC Winery of the Year, the first ever. That year was Bellaterra in Ontario in Black Market. That's where everything started. That's at that point we knew that we had something very special going on when we had Marcel and Fred traveling here for the party, and Michelle and Rob traveling all the way back to Ontario for the Bella Terra party. Well, after that whole thing, Mira and I really knew that we had something really cool going on, and Carl's Wine Club will be around for much longer than just a little experience. So here we are now, 2024, very special release of or library release or really rare wine available from Black Market. We have the Orange Gewürztraminer, the Omerta Vingri Rosé, the new Bacchus, the Pan Canadian Masterclass Pinot Blanc 2022, the State Merlot, the Unsanctioned Cabernet Sauvignon, and the 2021 Syndicate. So lots to choose from. Make your own selection or take the 6-pack Discovery Pack, but we have some really cool wine. The link is in the chat earlier on, and I would like to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. It was a heck of a time spent with Rob Hammersley, the winemaker owner at Black Market. So Carl's Wine Club members, Canadian wine lovers, from all of you guys across the country, wish you a great rest of your Wednesday, and talk to you later. Ciao.